Okay, time for part 3 of the collection thingamajigger. And we'll be looking at both live action and Muppets videos that I have. Now, I omitted Fantasia 2000 because it is technically animation canon, so I'm going to be saving that for a later part. But for the moment, we're going to be taking a look at some of these other titles that I have. And we're going to start with the big one. This white, old-fashioned Walt Disney Home Video release for Mary Poppins. Now, I've watched this one. It works very well, surprisingly, because it's a 1980s film, and I don't recall if it's in high definition or not, or like hi-fi or whatever the heck it would be. Like my old copies of Pinocchio and Robin Hood don't run really well on my VCR. Sorry. But for the sake of argument, I don't mind. But this one runs surprisingly well. And, oh, come on. Get out of there, you goose. There you go. It is not only the only title that I have in here that has the old-fashioned Walt Disney Home Video logo from the early 80s, but it's also one of the few that I have that has a print date on it. October 7th, 1986. This is the only Neon Mickey home video collection tape thing that I have in my possession, so yeah. That's basically where we're sitting right now. So we're going to move from Mary Poppins to something a little more bizarre. And this is my copy of So Dear to My Heart. A movie that I have made the first 15 minutes of, and that's it, because I fall asleep immediately. I don't know if this movie's any good or if it's any bad. They call it an endearing classic, but I don't think I've made it very far. This was probably a live-action film answer to Song of the South, where they didn't want to make anything that could possibly offend anybody, so here we are in 1948, creating one of the most boring, tiring-inducing films that could possibly be made. The only thing that's really interesting about this release is the fact that this was one of the few video remasterings that came out that had an updated trailer thing. Usually, the live-action Disney films would open up with the FBI warnings, and then Walt Disney Home Video logo, and then whatever the heck they wanted to do after that. Nowadays, or in this particular release's case, this one got trailers on it. It had a trailer for Beauty and the Beast and The Rescuers at the beginning. Then it had an interesting Stay Tuned After the Feature bumper, which was only ever seen on this tape, if I'm not mistaken. And then at the end of the movie, they had a trailer for The Great Mouse Detective. And we're looking at October 21st, 1992. A weird one, to say the least. And it's a shame that I've never been able to make it through it. I would like to see it one of these days, but for the life of me, I just don't really have the capacity to do so. We're going to move on to 101 Dalmatians, a movie that was very big in my childhood. Mostly because of this lady who, for the life of me, created one of the greatest performances of a villain, superseding the first that I've ever seen. I mean, Glenn Close nailed Cruella de Vil in this movie. This was originally released in the spring or summer of 1997. The home video. The film itself was released in the fall of 1996. It was very successful for a live-action Disney remake, because they used to be very rare. Or if they would make a remake, it would be to a live-action film like That Darn Cat or The Parent Trap. March 21st, 1997. Interesting there. Like I said, I like this movie fine. It's not the worst thing in the world. I've seen worse. I don't own worse, even though I've had the option to buy some of them for a while now. I just intrinsically refuse to take part in that. Next up is Angels in the Outfield. Another one that was big in my childhood and one of the few survivors of the great video purge of 2009, sorry. This came out in 1995 as a print date of May 31st, 1995. Was a pretty... I enjoy the film. It's a cheesy sports movie, but you know what? Like I said, we could always use a cheesy sports movie. Basically, Angels help the kid from Third Rock from the Sun have the Angels win the pennant in baseball. Adds, what's his name? Add Danny Glover, Tony Danza, Christopher Lloyd, and then for some strange reason, both Adrian Brody and Matthew McConaughey, and you've got a pretty decent flick there. Not one that I watch often, but hey, what you gonna do? Next up, we'll take a look at something that's pretty traditional around this time of year. The Santa Claus. In putting on this suit and entering the sleigh, the wearer waives any and all rights to previous identity, real or implied, and fully accepts the duties and responsibilities of Santa Claus until such time that wearer becomes unable to do so, either by accident or design. Oh, jeez. What a wonderful clause of a movie this is. And it's not a bad movie. I love the Santa Claus. One of my personal favorite Christmas movies out there. That at least to watch around the time of year. And I can only watch this one on video. I don't own it on DVD. It's a weird one like that. But I do enjoy this movie quite a lot. Now, as you can tell, you won't be able to tell because of the FBI warning, but the print date or the labels on the bottom are a little weird. This is because this, even though it has the FBI warning on it, is a Canadian tape. It does not have the FBI warning at the beginning. It has the second part of it, but not the first part of it. It's weird. But hey, like I said, optimism rules overall. And I like having Canadian titles. It's different, if you know what I mean. All right. Before we tackle the Muppets, we do have one last live-action true Disney film to look at. And that is George of the Jungle. This one is... I loved this one as a kid. I watched it as a young adult and I thought, wow, this was stupid. But then I've come around to this one again. Sorry. Oh, then down it goes. Lizzie will enjoy that because she likes me dropping my tapes, but I digress. Having watched it again as an adult, it is a stupid, fun comedy thing. Again, another one that has the FBI warning on it, but it is a Canadian tape. Doesn't show on here, but it is. Hey, the day after my birthday in 1997. What did I do for my birthday in 1997? I saw 2 movies in theaters that day. I saw the re-release of The Little Mermaid and then saw Anastasia. Pretty nifty little titles there. Last but not least, we have the Muppet titles that I have. All 2 of them. So let's start with The Muppet Christmas Carol. Another Christmas one that is very personal to a lot of people. I like this one. It's not my favorite telling of the Christmas Carol story by Charles Dickens, but it's definitely up there. Michael Caine puts on a really good Scrooge performance, and the Muppets, well, they're the Muppets. You either really love them or you barely tolerate them. And apparently I was lazy because I didn't rewind this since the last time I watched it. Which I think was at some point this summer because I was feeling very down about the world and stuff. October 19th, 1993, because once again, you do not want to focus. Not the end of the world, though. Last but not least, Muppet Classic Theater. Now, as many of you will remember, the first time I had Muppet Classic Theater was not in this tape. Was not in this case. The Nightmare Before Christmas was. Don't worry, I have Muppet Christmas Carol. Muppet Classic Theater in here now. In case you were unaware, this is a bit of a play performance that the Muppets put on to tell classic fables and fairy tales like the Three Little Pigs, King Midas, yada yada yada. I like this one. It's funny. Not one that I, again, go out of my way to watch often, but again, apparently, enough to not want to rewind the damn tape. And a print date of August 28th, 1994. Interesting. But those are my live-action tapes. Join me next time when we take a look at the direct-to-video Disney films. Starting with this bad boy, The Return of Jafar. Until we meet again, my lovelies, stay classy, YouTube. Nope, that ain't sticking at all.